Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Right, welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast. We are in Bath with myself, Gopal, back to Charlie,
Back to Ben!
and Mr. Elis.
Mr. Ellis, studio guest. We've been travelling around the country, not really, but we're in Bath.
We're distributing this, the spiritual knowledge that we're actually reading, we're distributing it also.
Yes, we're giving it to people on the streets. We're in Charlie's dad's penthouse flat, as you do, as a monk. These strange things come across your path.
Yeah, it's very kind of Charlie and his dad to let us stay the night here.
Yeah,
And
it's a beautiful place.
we'll start reading Bhagavad Gita, is it? I mean,
Bhagavad
Sri
Gita.
Upanishad.
Sri Upanishad, yeah.
It threw me off because the start of where we're going to pick this up from starts with Prabhupada quoting the Bhagavad Gita, or the Gita Upanishad.
Speaking of which, we've got a wonderful course coming up on Halloween.
Starts on Halloween, yeah.
Which when this podcast goes out, it will
Gita
be,
lifestyle course.
It'll be probably tomorrow. If you listen to this on the day it comes out, it'll be tomorrow.
We'll release it on 30th, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on a Friday.
All right, okay. Let's make this a special Halloween themed one then.
Halloween. Well, we are in this place. We, talk about ghosts and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we might be able to get into that in a bit. So
Ghosts are real. I'm going to say that just straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Just because it's said in the Vedic literature also, and I've had many experiences of ghosts personally, and a lot of
Many?
the people I know. Yeah.
Have you got?
Yeah,
Have
I've
you got
seen
an
a few.
example? You've seen a ghost.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple.
Right.
If you're tuned in, you can see them often, sort of thing.
You're tuned in.
Into that subtle.
You can, we one of my sort of teachers and guides, Mother Mishrani, who you all know.
Yeah.
She actually used to. I don't know if this is confidential or not, but she could see and communicate with these people, with these spirits. But she's after some time she decided to close it down because if you open yourself up like that, you can get all sorts of things invading. I mean, Premos. I mean, I've probably told you some of these stories before, but Prema Guru was another one of my teachers. He was staying in the temple in Swansea, and he was in the office. He was there till late doing office work. And if any of you know the Govinda's restaurant in Swansea, there's that staircase which goes up. There's a little platform. Have I told you this before, Elis?
No.
And there's more stairs going up then to where the office is.
Yeah.
Have I told you this?
I don't know.
Okay, so Prema's working in the office, and then he hears some noise or something. Okay, what's that? So he walks along the corridor. He looks down the stairs, and on that little, that little sort of step before the stairs changes direction, there was a figure looking the other way. Then the figure slowly turns around, stares at Prema, and goes, and runs up the stairs towards him, and he just thinks, no, forget this. He turns around and just goes into the office, locks the door, and just chants Hare Krishna.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And there's that. I mean, that was just one story. I mean, it just seems there's a lot of the ashrams that we stayed in as monks. A lot of them are haunted, because they do. If one is practicing some high energy spiritual practice, then it creates a type of beacon that sometimes it's very sort of powerful and peculiar to some subtle living beings. The sure way to get rid of ghosts, if one should be in what's called sattva gun, which is what our Gita lifestyle course is also based around, is like these different categories of energies in nature. So, but sattva gun means you're clean. There's no, you live a very pure lifestyle that keeps such sort of things at bay. Yeah. But in Vedic literature, you have there's stories of these witches that would crack off branches of trees and then use them to fly around.
Yeah.
Like
Broomsticks.
like broomstick type things.
bizarre. Like all of these kind of seeming fairy tales are based on some kind of.
There's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's these beings are all they're actually all over the place. It's psycho-like therapy in I'm not quite sure what the proper English word is, but like not quite psychology, but like psychotherapy, like any sort of dealing with certain types of madness. In Ayurvedic medicine, which is the ancient medicine from India, it's called Bhutavada, which means the science of ghosts. Because a lot of the time people are possessed and they don't know these other living creatures all over the place. You know what I mean?
Reminds me of one actually. Like, because some people get possessed, right? Like their body's like a vehicle for their soul, but then these other beings sort of hijack that vehicle and kind of sit in the passenger seat and like they're like backseat drivers, sort of like. And I was doing like distributing books in Exeter. I was just like merry guys, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
I remember. I was
I was just like Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I turned around and I was like, hey sir, excuse me, and he just went, shut up! And it was like, oof, it like blew me away, blew my thing off my head like that. And it was like this like sort of like cold blue tint came across my vision, and like I was looking around and it was like, whoa, everything was spinning. It was almost like this Buddha, this ghost had sort of like jumped into me, and I was just like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And I was just like, oh my God. And I just had to go and sit on the bench and chant Hare Krishna for 10 minutes, and it just sort of went away. But then for the rest of the day, I was just like, whoa, what the heck was that? Like,
they have a powerful, that's what they're called in Sam, they're called Bhutas.
Buddhas, yeah.
I had one Muslim friend who used to also tell me stories about the jinn, which is also the same sort of characteristics as these what we call ghosts, I was in college with one boy, and he used to say to me that and I said like, oh, have you done your work, your coursework or whatever, and he was deadly serious when he was saying this, like I can't get that point across enough. He was a normal guy, very nice, friendly. I've seen him a lot since, sort of thing. Completely, very intelligent, And he said, "No, I can't do anything in my house because," and he described this poltergeist that would harass him and his family. I was like, "Really?" And because I was interested, then he would tell a bit more because a lot of people just sort of palmed him off, And he would say like it just harasses him and his mother and his father. They can't sleep. He can't do any conscious. He said I can't, like he was visibly disturbed. Like he said, like, he's and frustrated. I can't do it because there's poltergeist in his house that would object and throw them across the room.
They moved out of that house now?
I assume so, yeah. But that's because these ghosts they don't have a physical body. It's described in the Vedic sciences that if one leaves the body but one is still attached to this world somehow, that's why in like Hinduism they do cremation and burn the bodies, because it helps release that attachment to this world. If that attachment is still there, and it's described actually that even generally if there's some death and the soul will hang around a little bit, and some are even for some reason or other chained to this world. And there's a planet of ghosts even that's actually not too far from this earth. This isn't a far out but there's a bit more sort of there's explanation behind that. But what was I saying?
You were saying like people become attached to the body.
Yeah, so then they don't have a physical body, so they're floating in this ghostly body. It's not spiritual, it's still material. It's just beyond the purview of our gross senses. And they can't physically enjoy what they want to enjoy because they don't have these tactile senses. But they have a body that the desire to enjoy is there, so they end up going completely mad because they want to, and that's what if people are drinking or smoking, then you'll have ghosts in the ether that will attach themselves to that energy and try and enjoy through these. And talking about them attracts them, by the way.
Yeah, there's probably this house, this place. It's been empty.
It's Halloween, so it's bona fide.
it's
So I don't
Halloween.
always go on to this, talk about this topic, but it's Halloween.
I
So.
feel that's why in horror films, when people watch horror films, all these creepy things happen because it
Yeah.
invites that.
Yeah, it brings the.
Yeah, and they have this fear potency. So sometimes you might be sleeping at night. If one does get hit up by a ghost, they have this or like if you have a dream, because sometimes they'll invade your dreams and things.
Because, like you were saying, they're subtle, aren't they?
They're subtle, yeah.
Dreams are like subtle.
Yeah, so they can come into the dream world, and at night they're very active. So you might feel sometimes you're terrified, but you know, externally there's no reason for you to be terrified. You know, why are you terrified? Because there's this presence that has this potency to invoke this fear out of you. You know, and the more fear you give it, the more it grows, and then some of them become, but some of them also can become very powerful. In India, you have what's called Brahman Rakshasas. So Brahmanas are very saintly people, or who have very high character, and therefore they're invested with a certain potency. Some of them are very good doctors, like witch doctors or spiritual guides and priests. But some of them, in India anyway, you get the stories of those who die. They're very powerful personalities. They have a lot of Shakti, but they have
Shakti power.
Yeah, but they have dark desires, so they get bodies as Brahman Rakshasas. Now these are very powerful dark ghosts, and the stories of these types of beings are woven through all histories of all cultures all over the world, and they do very heavy things of proper possession.
Yeah.
I mean, generally ghosts, if you chant Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada said, you know, if you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then such beings can't stick around. You'll find sometimes if you wake up and you can't move, you know, sometimes that's
Sleep paralysis.
yeah, type of sleep. Now some people say that's because there's another subtle living entity. But if you can get yourself to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, then you become free.
I have a sleep paralysis story actually.
Yeah.
When I first started university, like the university culture is just like, if you know about Freshers Week, you just go out and get drunk every night for like a week. And I was just following the culture back in the day.
Lack of culture.
Lack of culture, exactly. And I think I'd been out for like 3 nights and I just maybe had 1 or 2 hours sleep. So like you said, when people are drunk, they open themselves up to these ghosts. And I remember I was laying in bed and I was like, every time I closed my eyes, I couldn't move. I was like freaking out. And every time I closed my eyes, my whole room was filled with people, like a party of people. And they were all like talking to me.
I used to have that.
Yeah, it was really horrible. They were talking to me and I couldn't hear them. And I was like, so I'd open my eyes just to make them go away. So I was just laying in bed and I had to keep my eyes open. And every time I closed them, I would walk around.
I used to have that a lot.
Yeah.
Whenever I used to, you know, back in a previous life,
Yeah.
I used to, you know, go partying or whatever, you know, and then come back and then. But you know, it is a dark world. It's a dark energy. Talking about it is dark.
Yeah.
You know, but these things are out there. You know.
Maybe we should bring some light into this conversation.
Yeah, well, we
Is
should
it?
carry on reading Sri
Yeah,
Upanishad.
just go for it.
Because, anyway, because there's, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna states that Krishna-centered activities are so valuable, or God-centered activities are so valuable, that just a few of them can save a person from the greatest danger.
Like,
What's the greatest?
Rakshasha.
Well, what's the greatest danger?
I guess
He
it's
says, the greatest danger of life is the danger of gliding down again
into the
and gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death among the 8,400,000 species.
cycle of birth and death. So samsara, isn't it? Samsara is cycle of reincarnation, and they say that it's like an evolutionary process. So like the living entity takes on a body. The body's like our vehicle to interact with the world, but we're not the body. We're the consciousness within the body. But you start off like a little microbe or a bug, and then maybe in your next life you become like something bigger and more impressive.
Yeah, amoeba, plants, or fish and plants.
Tree.
Yeah.
Bug. No, I've been a bug. Like a rooster.
Yeah, I guess the point is the more...
A goat, yeah. So yeah, you work your way up these 8,400,000 species, and eventually it's really rare, but you get a human form of life. So you think about it, there's so many like bacteria in the air, there's bugs, especially around here. There's loads of bugs and stuff. They've all got little souls in them. There's millions and billions and trillions of these little souls, but to be a human is very rare. So it's saying that like if we don't put like these Krishna activities into our life, then there's a good chance that we'll glide down. Like it says glide, you don't just fall down, you sort of glide through these lowest, you just go down in the cycle again and then it starts again, maybe. So it's like very important to put these Krishna combos into our life.
Yeah, because you can,
It's like a tiny bit of, what did they say? It's like a tiny, she was saying something about it the other day, like a tiny bit of progress on this path.
Nebhakramonastos. This is the verse he's quoting actually, is Nebhakramonastos di vidinunyayu vidyate sva alpam api asadharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. I think that's the verse Krishna says, that even if one makes a tiny bit of progress on the path of spiritual development, then such progress is never lost. Because that's the thing, isn't it? As you reincarnation. So the same spark of consciousness is in all different types of bodies, but depending on the body is how much we can be aware of our own existence.
It's like, because then they say, because it's funny we're talking about ghosts. That's like a type of body, a ghost body.
It's one of the species.
Yeah,
actually.
one of the species. It's like, didn't they call it a one-legged? I heard something like that.
Yeah, they've ghosts are, because it's in the Bhagavad. There's some creatures who are four-legged, some are two-legged, but some are no-legged, like snakes.
Yeah.
But some are one-legged.
Like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. That's the Vedic literature says that ghosts apparently they move on one leg.
Yeah, it's creepy. Yeah, but like that's a subtle body. So like bodies are made out of different combinations of elements. Like they say that there's beings that live on the sun planet and they have like a fire body. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
And like the ones that live under the ocean, they've got more water kind of body.
And we can see it on this planet. A fish has a different type of body.
Yeah.
Does according to its environment.
Yeah.
So according to one's environment, you'll have a certain type of body that's fit to survive in that environment, which is we're architects of our own future, because the bodies are just manifestations of our own consciousness, of what we actively decide and choose to develop in this world. I was listening this morning that like Shesha Kapoor was saying, like your heart is a garden. So if everyone can just close your eyes, because this is important, because the whole point of understanding this reincarnation and evolutionary cycle is to understand that you can choose how you want to live your life, and you've got to be conscious. We have to be conscious, introspective, and be able to take care of ourselves. So if you just close your eyes and imagine your heart. Now the Bhakti scriptures and Sri Chaitanya, who's one of the great teachers of Bhakti, he talks about the heart being like a garden. So if you think about your life now and who you are, and think about the garden of your heart. So this garden, just like in any other garden, you grow, you plant seeds. Every action is a seed that you plant, and you get the creeper or the vegetable or the fruit or the flower, whatever you. So if you look at your heart as a garden and think about, okay, what things have I done in this life, and what sort of mentalities or what kind of person I am, what's developed. Look at my garden of my life.
Got a lot of barbed wire and a rusty Rusty.
Yeah. Well, that's another point, is that if we don't always look at our garden, then like if you don't always take care of your garden, then weeds will grow, and no one likes weeds. By not taking care of your garden, you're doing something. You know? So every action has an impact on this garden,
Including inaction.
Yeah. So bhakti is probably the most essential part of yoga. Yoga isn't just stretches, but it must include bhakti. And what bhakti means is looking at this garden of the heart and actively choosing to plant things of bhakti, which means love, in this garden. And so you can choose. Now, we all have weeds in our heart that have come up from mentalities that we didn't want to develop. And bhakti means actively looking at these things and deciding to uproot them. Now, if you have a big garden and if you look at yourself and your heart and you think, oh, this is covered in weeds, well, what you do, you take one patch at a time. You don't think, oh, I have to deal with it all at once. You take one patch at a time and you think, yeah, I can handle a small patch. And you feel encouraged. And you choose to plant bhakti seeds in there. Sri Chaitanya says that if one is very fortunate if they receive this bhakti seed and they can plant that in the heart. There's another saying that the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. Think about that. Something that I have to think about. The best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. Why do you think that is? Think about it, Elis. Charlie, why is the best fertilizer the gardener's shadow?
I know. Because you're facing the sun. If you're facing the sun, then the shadow's behind you. So it's like you're facing Krishna, and shadow's
That's
fertilizer.
a very creative answer.
Is it right?
It's not the one I was looking for.
It's true.
Basically, Charlie?
No, I don't know.
So if the gardener's shadow on it means he's attentive to it. He's showing care and love. You know, there's one agriculturist. He says that the unlimited amounts of unwanted and horrendous weeds can grow in the time it takes the gardener to put down his hoe. Which means that in the time that you're not attentive, is so much can grow in that time. And the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow, which means the best thing to help you grow your positive habits that we all want to develop is attention. One famous quote that's often attributed to Benjamin Franklin is, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance." So this bhakti element of yoga means always being attentive to the state of our heart, what we're developing, and then that cultivates our future. So this is where it's saying that a life centered on these, focused on these a bhakti-centered life, that can save a person from the greatest danger, because you're being productive about where you want to go, who you want to be. Because who thinks about that? Who do you want to be? I don't know, I just go with the flow, and I don't really think about who I want to be. But think about it. Think about what effect you want on other people. Think about, at your funeral, what do you want people to say? Wow, he was such a generous guy, or wow, he really helped people. And, are you that
remembered for
person?
his charity.
Yeah. I won't tell that joke. Anyway, that's the bhakti garden. It's a good meditation to do every now and again, is to look what is in the garden of my heart. And as a gardener, how am I cultivating the positive plants? Am I going out of my way to get, good flowers and nice fruits? Or am I just letting the weeds grow however they do?
Yeah, introspection is very important, isn't it?
It's cool. If you don't have introspection, it's like your dial on your car.
Yeah.
If you don't see if you've got enough fuel, or if you're going the right way, or if you're not looking at the map, or you're a sat nav or whatever, then it doesn't matter that you're driving your car at all, because you'll just end up whenever.
Yeah.
Prabhupada said that about the body. He said, like, the body's having a nice car. So if someone has a brilliant car, but then they just pull over the road and then they start examining the car and looking at the engine and checking all the fuel, and And someone says, well, what are you doing? He said, I'm just looking at this car. But he said, well, the car is meant to take you somewhere. You know, you're not meant to just examine it. So if we spend our lives just
focusing on the body.
Yeah. Oh, this is the way this works and that works, but not actually using it to go to a higher destination, and we're just staring at the engine, or we're just driving in circles, not knowing where we're going. Then there's no actual ultimate purpose in it. So being introspective, seeing the sort of having clear goals of who we want to be, and always checking if I'm achieving them. And don't be freaked out that we're just nowhere near where we want to be, because if you just take a section at a time, then that's something you can handle. Just think about something you can handle and deal with that, and it's very encouraging.
Yeah, that's because if you've got right, I need to be like this thing in the future, but it's so far away, you could easily get bewildered by that.
Work at a step at a time. It's important.
It's like you've got to break it down and do the next, because that's one thing I heard as well by Sheshkapus. He said, just do the very smallest next thing you can do to achieve that goal. So like if you're laying in bed, I can't move, I've got this big day ahead of me. Just first thing is get out of bed, make your bed. That's step one.
Yeah, you just write down the steps.
Brush your tooth. Just like take dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Pick something you can handle.
Bite size.
Yeah.
Chunk it down. Nice.
There's examples given, like if you have like a completely dirty room, for example, you just I can't clean this whole room. But just one step at a time. Well, I can put that pencil away. Yeah. And then these little victories build up, and before you know it, you just focus on the next thing. Yeah. You think about what you want to do. You can write out a little plan that has steps, and you don't have to do all the steps. Just do the first one. I can do that.
Yeah.
The next one, I can do that. And then before you know it,
you've done quite a lot.
Yeah. So that's why the Sri Chaitanya said it was like a garden. One look at their heart as a garden. Think about what you want to cultivate. Do it in bite sizes. Watch out for the weeds, and plant these seeds, especially these bhakti seeds, because they are the thing that'll can really once they start to bloom. And anyone who's practiced bhakti yoga can testify to this. Once these bhakti flowers and fruits start to bloom and grow, then what the aroma that it creates in the garden of the heart as one's living their life is very, very sweet. And it intensifies the more one practices bhakti. And the fruits that one can taste are also very, very nectarian. And they can only really be relished through the heart by one who is endeavouring to practice bhakti yoga.
Yeah. And it comes from like reading these books as well. Like I heard a description of the Bhagavatam, which is like a book, very famous bhakti text. And it says the bhakti is like the ripened fruit of the Vedas, and it's exactly like a mango that's so ripe that you could almost drink it. Do you know what I mean? Like you drink the pulp out of it. It's so sweet. It's so refreshing, so pleasing. Yeah. So this stuff's here. It's ripe. But I guess sometimes we can't taste that sweetness because we've got that kind of jaundice effect, isn't it?
Talking of ghosts, by the way, you guys wouldn't have seen it. The camera's caught it with the telly just.
Guys, there's a ghost in here. He just turned off the.
But I got it. It's on camera, but I didn't say anything. But the TV went, and then it turned on, and then it went off again. Camera.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Get out of here!
Are we still recording in there?
Yeah, we're still going. It's
okay.
just.
And then the camera turned off. That was weird.
Is it that
I think
bad?
we attracted a ghost voice.
No, it's on again. It's working.
We caught ourselves a ghost, but
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
the Ghostbusters. Anyway.
Prabhupada. I think have we talked about it in the podcast? About
Yeah, the first
It's George
episode.
Harrison.
Yeah, no, Paul McCartney's house.
Who is it?
He had
It's John Lennon's house.
John Lennon.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ringo Starr's house. it was John.
So, if somehow or other a man misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by this human form of life and falls again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate.
Due to his defective senses, a foolish man cannot see that this is happening. Consequently, Sri Upanishad advises us to exert our energy in the spirit of Ishavasya. Being so engaged What's Ishavasha? Do you know that?
It's referring to the previous text, Ishavashadam Sarvam. So the spirit of understanding that everything belongs. Nothing belongs to us. You only have except we were talking about. You shouldn't encroach on another's property.
Yeah.
Understanding that there's only you take only so much that you need to set aside for your quota, and ultimately everything belongs to the Supreme, which is an amazing consciousness. Because if you thought that if we understand that everything belongs to Krishna, you would if you have something that belongs to someone else, you would treat it more carefully than you would if it belongs to yourself. Like if I thought, this is Elis's phone, I better be really careful with this, and at least we should anyway. So the amount of care and attention you'd deal with everything then, if you really understood that this actually belongs to Krishna, and I'm only in this world for a short amount of time, so I should treat everything very carefully and treat other people very, very nicely before moving on to this world.
It's really interesting in a short amount of time, because it says we're talking about reincarnation through these various 8,400,000 species. So this one life that we have, supposedly we've gone through many millions of different lives as different species, birds, bees, whatever.
It might be humans a few times.
Humans, because there's a description in one of these Prabhupada's purports where it says that one human life is like a flash in the eternal journey. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we're all on this journey. We're a soul and we're searching for something by going through these various meanderings through the universe. There's another thing that it says to do with that garden of the heart. Lord Chaitanya says that after traveling throughout the whole universe.
Beach.
Yeah. Do you know what the verse is? It's something like, by going through all these various species in the universe, one is very lucky if they receive this bhakti seed, of the seed of bhakti. It's very, very rare to actually even be at this point where you're even hearing this stuff, it's very, very rare. So I don't know what point I was making, but it's like a flash. This life is actually just like a flash. So if we don't engage it in some sort of like connecting yoga, connecting to that source, then it might be an accident to not do that.
Yeah, most of it. Pascal's wager, in it. It's not it's not a very strong argument, but it's an interesting Pascal's wager that, well, if there is, he says God, but you can use it if there is a God, or like if you are a soul, you could use it another way. If you are a spirit soul, then you should engage your life in understanding these matters and who you really are. And if you're not, then it doesn't matter what you do anyway. So you got nothing to lose, sort of thing. So it's
go all in, put all the chips on the table and see what happens. So being so engaged, we may wish to live for many, many years.
Like trees.
Trees live a long time, but what's the point? You read this before, have you?
Yeah, I've read this a few times. Yeah. So
when was the last time you read this? A while ago. Anyway, where was I?
Many, many years.
Many, many years. Otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. A tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there's no point in living a long time as a tree, or breathing like bellows, or begetting children like hogs and dogs, or eating like camels. A humble, God-centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. It's pretty strong wording there.
Yeah, well, a hoax of a life means, like he's saying, isn't it? Using the example, like living a long time.
Yeah.
Trees live a long time.
Yeah.
Is that
the goal of life?
Yeah, so live a long time, but do something. There's no point living a long time if you don't do something with it. I saw something the other day on the news. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But I guess I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm not taking the side of this lady. I just thought it was quite interesting. She was saying, she's about late 80s. She was interviewed by the BBC about the current lockdown measures of COVID.
In the 80s?
No, she's in her 80s.
Okay.
And she said, don't agree with it at all. You know, they want to protect people like me. She said, I've only got a few years left anyway. I don't want to spend my last years I've got on this planet inside a house not doing anything. You know, I want to go out and what about all the money? She said, it's going to cost so much money. Who's going to pay for it? The young are going to pay for it. You know? Yeah. She said, I don't mind.
What a legend.
And I don't think, I'm not sick because it is a horrible disease, and I'm not saying this or anything about it. My grandmother, she's 90, and she's not bothered about it either. She said, I'm going to die anyway.
My nan's losing her mind, like, it's really hard.
But it really...
Yeah, she's stuck in the house. She used to go out all the time, go swimming with her friends, go knitting, go to this club, go to that club, and now she's just housebound. It's heavy, like.
What is doing? It's a I don't envy the decision to make whether to lock down or not, but the damage it's doing to people's mental health.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. And that's what this lady was saying. She said, I don't want to be stuck in my house all the time. You know, I'm suffering, and I want to go out. I've only got a few years left anyway. You know, so I'm just relating it to this point that what is quality of life? Now, whether people agree with it or not, now it is the right of these yoga sages to have their opinion, and their opinion is that if one's living a life, but it's not in developing these spiritual qualities and understanding really who you are for some greater gain in the future, then they see that as a loss. Yeah.
They've got that zoomed out perspective as well, because they see that this is like, we're actually on this eternal journey. And you know, we might accept this idea to a certain degree, because we're at a certain point in understanding, realizing this kind of knowledge. But these sages, these people are like, they're up there at the top. Like,
that's what Takaf was saying. He went to his friend's funeral, and he said it was like taking an aeroplane. Yeah. And because it was all these like little sort of things that are on in the news and that it was, you know, worrying him and worrying others, and just day-to-day life problems, you know. Yeah. Oh, my Kindle's not working or something, you know. But then he said when he was at this funeral for one of his close friends, he said it was like taking an aerial view. You just saw everything. You saw what's the point in worrying about these little things? What's the real problem, you know? And like you said, you know, that there's the person who was writing this purport that we're reading, Srila Prabhupada, when he'd see people wasting time, you know, because in Vedic culture, if you're retired, you should be engaging in deep spiritual development, not just sitting around playing checkers until you leave this world. And when Prabhupada saw people engaging like that, he actually cried out of compassion, out of love. You know, because the devotees would say, why are you crying, Prabhupada? And he said, because he's just wasting his time. Just wasting his time. It's not, this isn't just some, life isn't just some, you know, just some like pointless, sick exercise of some random bacteriums who have, you know, it's
about getting on that journey and figuring out what are we doing here.
There's a profound purpose to it.
Isn't there? There's that saying from like a Western philosopher saying the unexamined life's not worth living. You know, it's like Aristotle or someone like that. But it's true. Like, it's like what you said. Old people playing checkers. Like, everyone's gonna die, especially at the end of life. That's because my grandpa died. He was playing Sudoku. He's eating a sandwich and playing Sudoku, and he had a heart attack. So it's like that.
It's good to be reminded of these things.
Yeah, there are so many people out there actually looking for answers, and a lot of people give up, looking for the truth and stuff. Yeah. But with me especially, it was nice to find a group of people, where I live in Cardiff, that dedicate their lives to understanding who they are and stuff. Yeah. It's really comforting, and it's like, it's not speculation as well. It's like authoritative, and it comes from. It's knowledge that's
and it's experiential. They used to do this stuff all the time, and it's not so much anymore. Now death is swept under the carpet, but before, like you have the Shakespearean plays where they're looking at the skull, and it used to be common to be painted with a skull, and it would remind you of death, because it does put things in perspective. I think it's in the Vatican, you have all the tourists, oh wow, this is nice, cameras and on their holiday, And then at a certain point, there's this skull, and it says, the translation is something like, "I was once what you are now. I am also what you will come to be." Something like that, And I think it's really, like, I thought Elis touched on a good point there. It really is. Like, have you ever seen the film Dead Poets Society? And this is about these group of kids. It's with Robin Williams, and they're all they're in this. I've talked about it before.
Yeah,
this
I talked
podcast.
about it a few weeks ago.
That's far out, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they're all in this. They're in this school, and they're all because they were looking at. This is in relationship to death as well. We were talking about this, but on another also point, this school is they're all, a lot of them there, especially this one boy. His parents were really like pushing him to be a high achiever.
Yeah.
You got to get a good job. You got to get this. You got to get that. The school is built a certain way, and what these kids would do, they'd have something called the Dead Poets Society, where they'd go and hide in this, like a special cave, and they'd all read this poetry to each other. And they would go into these topics of what is love, what is life, these real expressive philosophical topics that they'd have to do undercover. And this one boy, he wanted to become like an actor, but his parents actually stopped him from. And if you want to see this film, don't listen to the next 3 minutes because this is a spoiler. Okay.
Spoiler alert.
I want to watch it.
Beep. Okay, and then the parents, they stop him from becoming an actor. They take him away, and he commits suicide. He kills himself because there's a deep sort of hankering, especially in a young sort of inquisitive mind, to understand what are all these things, these emotions, this love, and all these, and how do I go deeper into and experience all these things? And those who are philosophically minded, and expressive and inquisitive, there's no reason why they should be strangled into a certain worldview of there is no soul, there is no meaning to life. You're all, at the end of the day, you're just matter. Just come together, and what you think is your consciousness is just an illusion of, it's just where's this? You're a bunch of chemicals. Now, where is this bunch of chemicals? All of a sudden, this bunch of chemicals is wandering around looking for happiness. But you just, and we're seeing that all the time. These young kids now, I'm speaking to them, and a lot they're saying, well, they're suicidal. They're showing me scars on their arms.
It's really common now, isn't it? Like the cutting.
Yeah, self-harming.
Mm-hmm.
And because when they start to question what's life all about, instead of going into philosophy and religion and poetry, which is what people used to do, like this, the Sri Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, is beautiful poetry. But instead of going into these things, they're presented with this completely nihilistic worldview where you're just chemicals. There's no point you doing anything really if you think about it, and you're just being marched to death. Yeah, and that's dark. So, and people are wondering why there's so much depression. So therefore, you have to drink. You have to distract yourself from your own mortality, which, as we discussed previously, people wouldn't do. It's unhealthy. It's an unhealthy civilization that is not. There's no culture, because culture means there's a philosophy behind it. There's no culture anymore, because it's all based on just trying to satisfy the senses. And what we're reading now is, if one lives like that, then that's very, very dangerous for your future development.
Yeah, and if you end up...
Is that too heavy?
No, it's heavy, but sometimes
It's been a heavy podcast.
Mike Tyson packs a punch, but everyone loves him. So, but no, it's as well. If you commit suicide, you become a ghost as well. I heard that.
Yeah, there's no way out.
Guys, unlucky guys. So cultivate the garden of your heart by listening. We're just going to finish this because it's just 2 little paragraphs. So 45 minutes in, but it's a Halloween special. So maybe
you can always finish these 2 paragraphs next time.
They sort of carry on from what we just said there. Okay. So I could just read them out, unless you want to.
No, go on. You got that microphone.
When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Upanishad, they become a form of karma yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 18:5-9, for they guarantee their execution, protection from danger of sliding down the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor, because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one will have a good chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. It's quite an interesting point. Like, the human form of life is the best way to improve your position in that evolutionary cycle, because we've got that we're more able to express our free will. Like we were talking about it like earlier today, how like animals just sort of act automatically. Like they just act according to their instincts, according to their senses. Sometimes humans act like that as well. But then if you act like an animal, you're more likely to be dragged into that cycle of being an animal again. Whereas if you've got the human form of life, you're more able to sort of read stuff like this or get more yogic. Question, philosophize.
You never get like a dog questioning his own existence.
You don't get, why are those cats in church sort of thing? It doesn't.
Like, it's only human beings.
Yeah. And that's the sort of reincarnation, because that's what a lot of people might want, you know? Because you think like, okay, yeah, if you're not really going deeper and understanding these things, then having a higher consciousness is a burden. People have midlife crises, and what's the point of it all? And you know, so in that sense, okay, then material nature. Okay, you would be more happy in an animal body, because that's not your desire. You don't, you know. So these things are there like that. And I was thinking of something else as well while you were saying that, but I didn't want to. It's gone.
It's gone Wales.
No, it's gone out of my head.
Oh, okay. How can one execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is a wonderful book called The Nectar of Instruction.
Nectar of Devotion.
Devotion. Yeah, Nectar of Devotion.
Nectar of Instruction is a different wonderful
book. That's what's that called?
Upadeshamrita.
Upadeshamrita. Nice. By Srila Rupa Goswami. We've rendered that book into English as The Nectar of Devotion. I should have just kept reading. We recommend this valuable book to all those who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad. End of verse, canto of chapter 2.
We've done mantra 2.
Mantra 2, wonderful.
Mantra 3. How many mantras are in there total?
Ooh, that's a good question.
11?
Stay tuned. 18. 18?
No, it's not 18, is it?
It is actually. 18.
Oh, 18, okay. And we're on mantra, just on mantra 2.
We're on mantra 3 now.
Mantra 3.
We're going through it.
Yeah, the first few mantras, the purports are a lot longer than later on.
Yeah.
The mantras.
But it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure riding this train into ground with you guys.
Yes, but it's always nice discussing these things. I'm sorry, I know sometimes I get a bit heavy, like a bit dark.
Like I said,
it's been a dark. It's a Halloween special.
Halloween special. Mike Tyson didn't pull any punches.
So we would like to thank all of our guests, Charlie, Elis, Ben, and a couple of the other ghosts who have come to listen to these topics of Krishna Katha. Actually, Krishna Katha Krishna Katha means talks about Krishna. That actually liberates ghosts. It helps them get back to where they belong. Actually,
yeah.
So everyone at home can carry on reading these things. Get Sri Ishopanishad, get Bhagavad Gita, chant Hare Krishna, and you benefit yourself and everyone who listens. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We've been the Welsh Yogis. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Go forage with